the essence of basketball. I don't know if you can be a basketball player without experience.
B-Ball Radio.
It's B-Ball Radio, the podcast about everything from playgrounds to pros, history and culture, and beyond. What's happening, Eric? You good?
I am great. West Coast living, and I am very excited about today's episode. Our guest today is one of one. He is a Chicago basketball legend.
Word.
A high school basketball coach of the year 2024 for the Hope Academy.
Stop it.
He is the founder and president of Ronnie Fields Elite. And he is arguably the best in-game dunker in the history of the slam dunk, the one and only Farragut class of 1996, Ronnie Fields. Welcome to B-Ball Radio.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, guys. Good to see you again, Eric.
Great to see you, my man. And Bob, before we start, this is straight from the Ronnie Fields world, the Ronnie Fields community. This is Ronnie Fields dropping one of the all-time greatest bodies in the history of bodies. Ronnie, can you please tell Bobito and our audience the history behind the hoodie I am wearing? Thank you, sir.
As a matter of fact, it was against one of the premier high school programs in probably Illinois history. I think that team right there, they had a four-peat, state champions, Peoria Manual. That's when I realized, like, with basketball, the fundamental aspect of it, when we played against them, you know, we had the athlete scores, and we could do a lot of different things. But that was one of the first times I seen a team that could play four guards, that can all pass, cut, dribble, shoot, all on the floor at the time. I mean, it was like a machine. I'll never forget that game, and that was Sergio McClain. He played at University of Illinois. We was coming down the right side, and those guys was fundamentally sound on how to rotate, take charges, all those things. And he couldn't have been in any more perfect position. He did the right thing. So as I seen him rotating from block to block, I'm saying to myself, look, either I'm going to get a charge or I'm going to have to clear this guy. Because I didn't know, one, he wasn't going to go to block it. He was going to take the charge, especially at the time. So I took off probably a little bit earlier than I wanted to. And once I did, I was like, okay, he is just going to stand there and take the charge. And I said, look, I got to clear this guy. If not, like I said, it would have been an offensive foul. It was more surprised at the way the crowd reacted, more so than me actually doing the dunk. And when she looked back at it, like now, looking at Eric with the shirt on, it looks a lot worse. Sergio was a good dude, a good guy, man. I was telling the story when I went down there, and everybody continued to talk about that dunk. And I was speaking at David Booth basketball camp in Peoria. And his son was a little mad at me. And I was wondering why, because everybody, kept teasing his dad. I'm sorry, young fella. That was a long time ago. But that became a poster.
But it's funny, thinking about it, I'm imagining that happened in 95 or 96 or sometime in that era. I can't remember us using the word posterized back then, because it wasn't like the documentation, the photography, it wasn't really there like that, so it was like, oh, yo, you got boofed on, you got dunked on, whatever the slang term it was. I don't know what was the hot word in Chicago if somebody got,
Oh, no, posterized.
Oh, y'all was saying posterized even back then?
Yeah, we said posterized, because you got to think back then, you had the posters on the wall, of course, MJ and all those guys. Back then, you had that getting posterized.
Yeah. All right. Well, there it is. Yeah.
I wore this to film at an Inglewood game a few weeks ago, and 3 people asked me, they're like, wait, who is that? And I told them, like, oh, shit. They all knew and remembered. So, Ronnie, you are well represented on the West Coast, my friend. And knowing all that's happened in basketball culture, the history of Chicago basketball, for you guys to still be thought of in this way, and knowing that this impact has continued over 3 decades, what's the first thing that comes back to mind for you?
It tells you how much basketball was really meant to the culture from way back then. If you look at the guys, what we call us the Jordan era babies, that, Steven Jackson, Matt Barnes said, Allen Iverson, KG, myself, Kobe, Jermaine O'Neal, Mike Bibby, Tim Thomas, a list of us. We adopted the game from the way it was back then. And the fact that we still had an impact on the culture so much, especially AI, from the way you watch players now tatted up all over the place and the way it is. He kind of brought it into this era where we still kind of like carried on, but really respected what we learned from the guys back then, from like Jordan and Dr. J and Magic and Bird, on the physicality and how hard it was back then. And to carry that on, to try to get the message to the young generation on the work ethic, the way the game wasn't earning, not saying these guys don't earn it, but how we had to earn it through the physicalness and the understanding of, you had to run a lot of plays back then. You can get physical. There's a lot of things that guys do in this era that would have been hard, I say, with the way the rules was back then. So like for us, we still try to teach it in this generation and continue to, give back from how we learn. And it was one of the hard ways. And I think the fact that we stand in the limelight coaching and teaching was so amazing that people still want to know and hear about how it was back then.
You mentioned a lot of amazing players in the legacy of the pro ranks, right? But, we're just as interested about the playground. And, there's a fantastic legend that caught a lot of people's attention here in New York City, which was hard to do in the 70s and 80s when I was coming up, because we were so New York centric, and, the media and the documentation wasn't really there, right? But Billy Harris, eventually Slam Magazine wrote an article about him, about how, he was just destroying the Chicago Pro-Am and, playing pickup and all these courts and stuff. Like, did you ever get to see or play against or play with the playground legend of Chicago, Billy Harris?
No, I didn't. That's how I got started. I think when you talk about like these legends, I heard a lot about them.
Oh, you did? Okay, so the folklore was rolling along in the streets.
Yeah, for me, this is the craziest thing when you talk I don't know, for a lot of us young kids though, that was the way we learned. We had to go out there, unless you got to think, you get a basketball, you go out to the court, everybody wanted to go and play. Back then, that was the impact from Magic, Bird, Jordan, Dr. J, Dominique Wilkins they had on us. So we would go to the playground and we'll try to, implement a lot of those things those guys did. And that's when we, everybody went out there and we had a lot of tournaments, and guys just, want to be whoever was their favorite player. But we go out there every day, even in the spring and summer when school was out, or we go early in the morning. But that's how we all learned how to play. The craziest thing, we was out there not realizing, today you go out and play outside and it's 100 degrees. You feel like, man, it's hot out here. Back then we was playing out there it was, with no problem when you're a kid, but you go try to play now, you're like, wait a minute, this is too hot. But back then that tells you that you didn't care about how hot it was or how cold it was. We just went out there and compete in the playground. Like I said, it was a lot of great playground legends that a lot of people haven't heard of.
Yeah, I remember seeing a Reebok commercial that had Lamar Mundane, and I'm thinking he's a fictitious character until later on I found out this is a real dude from Chicago, and I know there's probably tons of other, players who kind of sticks out in your head of sort of legendary in the playgrounds, but maybe perhaps never got past, the high school or college or NBA ranks to become universally known.
I know you heard of Jamie Brandon.
I have not.
Okay, you think about all the players that played at King High School and even Simeon, but King at the time had Tommy Hamilton, Rashad Griffith, And then they had another kid that you probably heard of, Michael Herman.
Never heard of him either. Yeah.
Like, and Randy Brown was one of the best defensive players on the Bulls. He played in the league for a while. He played with the Bulls when they won guard, defensive guard, 94 feet, super athletic, played at College High School. Michael Herman in the program, when we had the program back then, Michael Herman put on the show. We had like 50 points. And no one could guard
Randy
him.
Brown from the NBA?
Yeah. Yes. And it's like, if you you do your research, Michael Herman had a crossover, an hesitation to a jump shot that was almost unguardable. You knew it was coming. You just didn't know how to stop it. Right? He was 6'4.5", 6'5". And then Jamie Brandon. He was at LSU, I think, with Shaq. That's another player that was unreal, remarkable, almost like a Randy Livingston. Remember Randy Livingston?
Yep, too.
See, people don't realize how great he was before he had those knee injuries. Number one player in the country. He was Jason Kidd with crazy hops. But like, if you go over the list of guys that and came up in Chicago, I think it comes to a point where if you look at the history, when you look at guards, I think it comes down to more of the mental aspect for us. I can speak on Chicago guards. When we out there competing, because here we adopted at the time the way the NBA was back then with how Detroit, by Isaiah being a Chicago guy, how Detroit used to defend Michael, and then watching the Knicks and Miami get into it. So a lot of people here adopted that way of ball. We had this thing where you if you hit a foul, it had to be really a foul. So you watch a lot of the players that came up here. It's always more, they have the mental toughness. Nothing shake them. And this one I knew it was not just in the NBA, it was true, but playing across the water in different countries. When you hear people say, like they knew me, it was crazy that they knew where I was around the world just when they see the name and they pull it up. But it was crazy when I hear some of these players in different countries was like, hey man, I could tell a Chicago player. I'm like, what you mean? Like, it could be, the fans could be throwing stuff or acting crazy, and you Chicago guys don't budge. Y'all act like, y'all another country, y'all just like, or whatever, we just gonna play ball. We know when you from Chicago. I tell this story about Aubrey Story. He's assistant coach. He played a little bit in the league. He's assistant coach with Connecticut Suns women's team, and he also was with Chicago Sky. But I never forget, we was in Venezuela, and the owners asked me, hey, you don't want to get another American to play with you, who would you want? So we went over a list of guys, and I was like, I picked Aubrey Story. Now in high school, I jumped over him too. They couldn't get that picture. We hated each other. We became good friends later on in life, which is crazy. We headed to Colombia, like right on the border of Venezuela, where the fans and these people got guns outside. You walking in the game, it is crazy. So as we go in there, some of the players that's from that country saying, hey, this is crazy. This is, these people carry guns. They be throwing bottles, court, all kinds of stuff. So they had to have the people coming up with those shields and sticks surround the court. Now game get going, right? He blocked a shot, crowd getting more crazy. So we like, man, these people, okay, but they don't realize being from here, we like the craziness. 3 plays, I kid you not, 4 plays later, they had this center call, they called him wild card. He just was like Charles Oakley to them. I'm coming on the right side, and I'm like, okay, this guy either gonna try to just give me a hard foul, get riled up, and my mind is this: I gotta send a message. So if he come wild, I'm going straight and kicking him in his chest and dunking on him. That's just what it is. Because I'm thinking he's going to try to hurt me. This guy rotated across 6'8". Look, instead of him trying to go to block it, he still there to take a charge and I dunked the ball so hard, he ended up grabbing me by my legs. That's how far I was over him. Ball went in. That's when you had a needle drop in there, a pin drop in that place. The place erupted and went crazy. You know, the ref called an offensive foul on me. My coach was even in shock. Because they said we never seen a player in history ever, in all the times in this country, do what you just did. I had the whole line out there signing autographs. They were mad at me. The next year, I ended up going to play for them. Hey, Eric, you know what's crazy, Eric Bob? You know these people up until like the past 3 or 4 years, they still ask me when I'm coming back to play. I said, y'all know how old I am now?
Wow,
Yes, it's crazy. I'm almost 50.
I love it.
But
I love stories like that. So thank you for sharing.
Ronnie, before you were jumping over people and before you were in that Farragut uniform, you have Isaiah, you have obviously Jordan there in Chicago. Was there another guy that you looked up to that was the standard for you from Chicago that you were either inspired by or modeled your game after before you literally took flight at Farragut?
Oh, man. You know, this is at a young age, just going out there because, like, back then you really seen a lot of the NBA guys on TV. That's who we watch. And so we was watching like, this is crazy. When I realized I learned how to dunk, I got caught up watching dunk contests in the NBA. So I was watching Dominique Wilkins a lot, right?
The human highlight film.
And I paid attention more to that than a lot of the players at the time in our own city. You know, because I was watching the NBA and the dunk contest and all-star game. And you know that I used to sit there and play all those. You remember they used to make highlights with songs that you used to love to listen to back then. Like Magic had a nice one. They used to do like an all-star tape of all the highlights.
NBA Superstars. NBA Superstars. I wore that VHS out.
I used to put that in every day before I go out to the playground. We all was sitting there just watching that, you know, like the Bulls play, Magic. Because you heard about the three guys the most, and Dr. J. But you heard about Magic, Jordan, Bird, probably the most when I was young, and Isaiah, of course. But those are I watched more basketball then and just go right to the playground.
So we have listeners all over the world. You've played all over the world. Bobito obviously has traveled the world doing many different things. And we also have some younger listeners out there who may not know just how impactful your team was with KG because it was the year that Michael Jordan was retired. Can you paint just a quick, accurate picture of what it was like in 94, 95, owning Chicago basketball because of what you guys were able to accomplish together at Farragut and what that excitement and feeling was like going gym to gym, school to school, game to game?
Yeah, at the time, you know, like I said, of course, like, you know, that's the NBA at its height, and of course, Michael Jordan, and then being in this city, right? But you also, at the time, you had, you know, Sammy Sosa hitting home runs, you had Frank Thomas. I mean, you had a lot of stars. But the craziest thing was, I guess when we were young, you know, me and Kevin and the guys, when we were young playing basketball, we knew we were selling out places, but we didn't know what people was doing to actually get into our games until as we got older, what people was doing to get to the games, fighting to get in the barber chair to get to the games early. And then when Mike was playing, people would leave, like, come watch us, and it depended on the Bulls who they was playing. But to have the impact, when we were saying people like, we travel from Iowa, we travel from Minnesota, we travel from here to, and that was like I said, we like young men, we caught up in just the game and playing and enjoying it to not realizing really that impact that we had, everywhere we played, it was to a point where when we played in like NBA arenas, we were selling those out. And for like a guy like Kevin, for me, I'm more laid back, but I can, get mean. The pit bull can come out of me. I always had that being here. But Kevin brought the emotional aspect to it out where he talked a lot, to a point where, Eric, that's how we first met because he would never shut up. So I think when we played, not only that the whole state was coming to watch and all the young kids, but it was really all over the country. Sometimes it was when we playing the game, I can be quiet, but I know he's not. Right? I go to the game, do what I need to do, but he brings the extra fire, right? Well, when Kevin realized here, look, dude, I just told him, play, you talk trash, do your thing. And I said, here in Chicago, you ain't got to worry about nothing. We got a lot of guys that got your back. And when he realized that, that's when he went to another level of talking trash. But that duel, when I look at the duel of how the chemistry formed so quickly, and I tell you, this is the thing I watch closely with basketball. Even when guys start to team up and people got to realize what goes into it, I don't care if it's an NBA or college. In order to win when you're playing with another superstar alongside of you, one got to take a back seat and you still doing your thing because it works together. But mentally, you got to be like, hey, no, you take the drains, you the leader, I'm going to roll with you. And for me, I had no problem doing that. And that's why it worked.
Yo, Ronnie, you're making me think about something because we had Scoop Jackson on our show recently. And
Scoop, good people,
right? Legendary author, writer, just Chicago cat, through his veins. And I asked him about his most fondest one-on-one memory. And he said, he was like, it's the game that never happened. Because he said he once asked Michael Jordan if he had ever played Scottie Pippen and who won. And MJ said, nah, me and Scottie never played. So now I'm wondering, you're laid back, but you got the fire. KG is the smack talker from South Carolina. Did the two of you, as great as your camaraderie on the court was as teammates, did the two of you ever play one-on-one? And
did me and Kevin play one-on-one?
Yeah, Kevin Garnett.
No. But we was on opposite team. We never played one-on-one, but I'll tell you this. I think this is what's so unique about him, and I don't think people understand, when you watch versatility in guards and one. And I was a tough guard, but with a guy like Kevin is this. He was so great at timing and making you redirect your shots, even if you close farther his length. It was still going to be hard to get good looks, even if you try to blow down.
Word? Okay. All right. That's
I could jump, but you got to think. He go down there, Kevin shoot threes in the McDonald's game. You realize he hit four.
Well, I don't know if I'm sure you saw, but there's that footage of him playing knockout full court with Team USA. And,
Team USA.
It's you got the best players in the world, and he's just going bonk, okay, out, bonk, out. And he scored 6, 7.
And they taller than in this thing, and they taller than me.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. Would y'all just be like, okay, cool, let's go hit Garfield, let's go hit Washington, let's go hit the beach. Were y'all traveling together, just playing 2-on-2 against whoever was there, or
Well, we didn't want to be around a lot of people sometimes. What we would do is go all the way out to Mount Prospect. It's 40 minutes away from the city and play and pick up. Yeah. And go play pickup. Or we'd be out of Lombard going out to just the court in the complex and just Hey guys, y'all want to play? Yeah, okay. And we'll play with them. Or go to the common yards and play like, we played basketball to a point where I know, like, Wolf used to be like, guys, hey, y'all need to get some rest and do this, this, and that. But you got to think, for me, we'll go play with one like Coach E. Yeah, I was playing out the park a lot. And then we're like, okay, we're going to sit and play video games all day. So we just go out there and just say, hey, let's go over and see if anybody playing. So we come to the court. Before people kind of knew who we was, people was like, wait a minute, man. I said, we'll play 2 against 4.
Word?
And guys still couldn't score.
Oh, my God. Well, I mean, come on. Like,
Yeah.
that's not fair. Score. 2 of you, All-American, top high school in the country, and you just showing up like, yeah, I love it. I love hearing that. That reminds me, Ron Artest, now known, he's changed his name again after Meta World Peace. But when I was the editor-in-chief of Bounce, one of my favorite moments of his cover feature was that he had, I forget which season it was, but he wanted to work on his 3-point shooting. So he went back home to Queensbridge Projects, and for the whole summer, he played 1-on-5 against preteens and high school, like freshman, sophomore type kids, 1-on-5 for the whole summer. And he wasn't allowed to shoot inside the 3-point line. And the next season he improved his career. He had career high 3-point percentage from shooting outdoors, and I love hearing stories about players of your caliber, because I don't know what Hope Academy is doing, number 1 through 12, but I would imagine because of your pedigree that you're probably encouraging them to go out and play pickup outdoors, off season.
I think for me, that's one of the biggest things with the group. But it's funny you said that about the Artest, because I break down situations in terms of champions and players as well. So when you said that about Artest, remember the first year that Boston played the Lakers and they beat them pretty good, right? Because Boston defense will overload, and they will leave that skill pass over there because they want to overload, of course, against Gasol and Kobe. When they played them again, Artest was hitting those threes on the weak side. Boston played that same defense, but Artest started knocking those shots down, and that's how, they pretty much, that was an integral part of Kobe getting his 5th ring.
You're such a student. I love it. I mean, it's of course I knew you were athletic and all this stuff, but, hearing you talk with the vision that you have is amazing. Yeah, it's dope.
I did that. I kind of used those things, especially with this team. When I first took over coaching last year, and the players, when I walked in, I met the players, because a lot of people man, that young team, and AD told me, Ronnie, take your time, build a team. You got a bunch of young guys, some, are coming into sophomores. So I'm like, okay. But in my mind, you already know what I'm thinking. I'm trying to go all the way my first year. So I told the players, I said, look, I told the players, I said, if y'all trust me, especially the 3 seniors, the rest of my team was young. I said, I'm going to get y'all down there. I'm going to get y'all over the hump. Now, as the season went on, I started watching the way they practice, and they listen, they trust me. And the one team they said they couldn't get over the hump was to get to the Elite 8 was this school, Marshall. Kept beating them, I think, for 2 years in a row.
Wait, isn't that the team that Arthur Agee played for?
Yes, yeah.
Marshall.
So we played and we ended up meeting them again to go to the Elite 8. And I had a plan for them. We went up 20 on them before they blinked. Because that was the team they need to beat. And I said, guys, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. And midway, Marshall made a comeback. When there was a comeback, after 2 of my other guys ended up cramping up real bad, and they could come in. So a game, got a little closer. We ended up winning. And that was the first time the team advanced to the Elite Eight. So now I get them there. And now I say, guys, we win this, y'all in the Final Four downstate. And we're in a situation, I think my mindset, and this always go back to like how we grew up and what we adopted from the old school. Why I think the mental toughness is more important nowadays, more so than just your skill can't just do it alone, right? So I told the guys, when we down 4 against a huge team with a center, I'm like, look, guys, standing behind that big guy is not going to get it done. But if we going to see if they make adjustments. So we go into the fourth quarter. I got a point guard that's about 5'8". He's a sophomore who was the heart and soul of this team. I said, guys, he's like, Coach, ref, I said, listen, do what will guide us here. We're going to pick up 94 feet, and we're going to force these guys to handle the ball. We was down 4 going into the fourth quarter. So the other 4 guys walk up there. I called him my point guard. I said, come back here for a second. I said, remember I told you I'll let you know when it's time to take over a game? Well, as long as the bigs and they stay in this situation, we're going to pick and roll. The big ain't move. If they stay in it, take over this fourth quarter. Fourth quarter begin, we down 4. Before you blink, the last 2 minutes of the game, we up 14.
Word.
Game over. And it was just the belief of listening, and also like not just a student of basketball, but I listen to what coaches say. And Eric, you see this, Bob, is more in today's sports. It's not just the X and O's, it's the leader of men. Because you got to lead more because a lot of situations, a lot of these young kids come in. And I figure leading more than just the X and the O's, because you could throw them out the window when it's time to come down to playing with heart, toughness, and teams of like, maybe don't have that, right? And just having these kids believing, like, you do this, this, and this, you will win. But they got to buy and believe it. And that was one of the biggest things I learned when I watched guys like Belichick, Popovich, Mike Tomlin. How do you continue to win and succeed even though you get different talent and different players for decades? What's the secret? And you're doing it sometimes without superstars. And when I tell the players, I say it takes everyone buying in, believing, and trusting one another. And those guys did that. And now I had lost seasons, and right now we're on a 4-game winning streak. We second in the conference, and now I'm getting these new guys to back to that expectation of teaching these young guys, look, to work hard. Don't worry about all the other stuff that you see on Instagram and what other players doing, because kids nowadays get caught up in that a lot. And that's what you got to keep them from, that, focusing on their team and what they do best for the team. And a lot of people struggle with, leading young men.
I think Bobito will echo the sentiment. Knowing your journey and knowing a lot of the things we talked about on camera and off camera and what you had been through, I could not be happier that you are in this place coaching and you're being recognized for it and you're changing lives through the game. And we completely identify with the importance of leading young men, and the fact that you are doing this and you are this committed to it. It's beautiful. And, this is a great example of why we created this show, to make sure stories like this are out there and known. It's not just about Ronnie Fields jumping over guys and being decorated as one of the great high school players ever. It's what you're doing with the game now and impacting lives. And Bob, I would be amiss because of the hoodie I'm wearing and because this man redefined what it meant to catch a body. Today's shoe from the closet is the Air Raid starring Ronnie Fields, because you better take cover. You better take cover.
I love those. I ain't seen them in a minute. Nice.
Bob, closing thoughts,
No,
Bob.
I just, I didn't really know what to expect, Ronnie, because I've seen highlights of you, and watched the documentary "Anything Is Possible," which you're a talking head in. But I really, I'm so impressed with who you are as a person. Forget player, coach and all that other stuff, like your humility and just, you just don't know what to expect from people who are exalted above, the ordinary because of their physical, prowess and stats and stuff like that. So, beautiful to meet you. And I also want to share that I had a really deep conversation yesterday with a friend who's an educator in high school as well. Not a coach, but, he teaches art and sneaker history. And he was telling me about how, he's in the South Bronx and, his students are coming to him and they're frightened, because of the current climate with the new administration and, all the policy enforcement. And, I'm thinking about Chicago. I was there 10 years ago to screen a film, and me and my partner we're junkies, so we started going to all these different basketball courts, and we were seeing the rims taken down, and because of the mandates, from the local government saying like, too much violence in the courts, and and I'm thinking like that's so backwards. Like you should have the rims up to deter violence. The people playing ball is not what's creating the violence. It's the environment of poverty and drugs and all these other social ills. But in the midst of all that, you're teaching and you're talking about leadership for our youth, and there's so much value in that for their lives beyond basketball. Because look, like you were clearly taught and mentored well in your youth, and you're giving that back tenfold, 30 years later. So, props to, your guardians, your parents, your mentors, your teachers, your coaches in your youth, because I don't think that happens by accident. I think it's a very structured line when, when particularly students of color in certain cities, that have a lot going on. I mean, I remember going to Southside Chicago and being like, yo, this looks like the South Bronx in the 70s. I've been seeing like plots of land like flattened for blocks. Like, what is going on? I remember going to play ball in Cabrini Green before they tore that down.
Yes.
Chicago's has this like long history of just punch after punch after punch. Think about Benji Wilson getting shot, number one prospect in the world, coming out of high school, probably could have went pro like Kevin did straight out of high school, and gets murdered. Chicago has this like dark history, but it's, on the flip, it has this like beautiful, uplifting, positive history. And you're a cog in that now. So carry that responsibility in the same way that you are, man. I just want to give you love. That's all.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. That means a lot. And like I said, I'm, hopefully just the start of what, I'm able to do with the youth, and hopefully like now people reaching out to do different things. I try to, I don't just coach them. I spend time with them. I take them out to dinner. A lot of them. I took them to a couple Bulls games. I try to spend time with them and show them like, look, you work hard, you do what you need to do, you get rewarded for these things in life. So I'm trying to continue to work with these young men and teach them that way, because I get to also have a lot of suburban kids I work with as well that have a lot of everything. And then I also, coach in the inner city as well. So, I get a chance to try to bring those two together just for them to see the different parts of life, because that's the people that have helped me along the way. My agent, Rick Malnati, E. Wolf, a lot of guys that's been there for me when I was young.
Yeah, that reminds me of you, and you tell me, me and E, that you and Kevin would go to the suburbs to play ball, like 40 minutes outside the city. A child has to experience various environments to see, like, oh, not everybody lives like this with, with the heat not working, or you know what I'm saying? Like, if you live in a project, pee in the staircase, like, oh wait, this isn't the norm. Like, oh wow, that's cool. Then it becomes aspirational, Yeah.
Yes, and I think, for me, I've done that a couple of times. I think more people here, maybe for young kids in the inner city to see that life is not just, you know, the area you grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
And some get so caught up in it that they think that's all it is. And that's when you get the violence and all the other things. So I try to do what I can to like change that narrative, you know, little by little.
Nice. Well, yo, man, props, bro. You know, much love. All right,
thanks, guys.
I
wish you the best with Hope Academy this season. Eric, you want to close this out?
Thanks.
Absolutely. We got to follow Ronnie Fields Elite, follow Hope Academy. Best of luck in the playoffs. What do you think? In a month, you'll be holding up the trophy? What do you think?
That's what I'm hoping, man. That's what I'm hoping. You know, like, you know, we right now, I'm already put our guys with 6-7 games left into the regular season, already put our mindset in playoff mode. And to get that first round bye and, you know, a good, you know, easier path. So we'll see. We got practice today. I'm finna head there now. But yeah, hopefully, like I said, in a month we can't hold that
make
trophy.
Make them run some 17s,
Beautiful.
Ronnie. Get them in shape.
Oh, that's what they're doing.
Get in the stance, Ronnie. Get in the stance.
I got you guys.
I know.
Love it. That's the great Ronnie Fields. You were listening to B-Ball Radio. Shout out to the team. Robert, Bobby Brooks, the editor, Amanda, Deja, Sam, everybody that supports the show. We continue to build something really special here in 2025. Bob, my man, you already know. Ronnie, great episode. We'll be talking and seeing you soon. Peace.
B-Ball Radio.